Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rogue Record Music on a new segment that I'm going to call NTR, New to the Rack. I apologize for being away for a little bit. I've had some construction. As you can see here in the room, things look different. This is the first time that I'm getting this on film here. So I was originally thinking that Right Between the Eyes podcast was going to be the first to kind of see the new setup, but it's going to be Rogue Record Music, and we're actually going to be recording a Right Between the Eyes podcast episode very soon. I think this coming Thursday. At the time that I'm doing this, it is 9/21/2025. So a lot has happened, and I don't even know if I've talked about it on social media for Rogue Record Music, maybe not even my own personal page. I think Right Between the Eyes podcast is the only spot that I've talked about it. I'm still working on getting the Twitter up for Rogue Record Music, so I apologize for that. But what has happened here is, I'm going to try to remember, this is an editor's note to you, Rob, right there, as you're looking higher up where a camera would have been, where the camera is here right now, that the ceiling started collapsing in here about a month ago or so. It might have actually been a little bit longer, but I really didn't start to realize it till this corner over here really started to come down. Now, the ceiling never actually fell down, but I had some pretty big bows up here. So it's a drop ceiling, and hopefully I'm putting pictures up here. This is going to look really weird. So we got a hold of a contractor who's a family friend. He came over and did the work, and I also had a ceiling fan that was detached from the drop ceiling. And long story short, the people that owned the house before we did not install the drop ceiling, they installed the drop ceiling well enough, but they did not install the ceiling fan properly. So that had to be done correctly. I ended up buying a new ceiling fan. I got some new kind of blackout curtains over here. And while I was doing that, I had to take basically everything out of this room, everything that you see on the walls and the shelves and all that stuff that they could work around, with the exception of the desk here. So they obviously could work it. So I had to take every single picture, every single drum head and Kiss, Dream Theater, Seven Dust Sign, whatever it is, you name it. CD racks were left in here. And taking stuff out to the main part of our house, which was kind of crazy to be living in for a couple weeks until the work was done, I really started thinking what I really wanted to do in this room. You know how it is once you get all your furniture moved in, sometimes it's kind of a pain to redo your room or your living room. You're like, the sofa works here, the TV works there. We'll just deal with it until you decide, well, we're going to paint or we're going to have major construction done. So with that, this was kind of the opportunity if I was going to move stuff around. And I had been toying with doing that, maybe spending a Saturday doing some stuff. I thought this is the opportunity to do so. So the CD rack, the vinyl that you see, because I'm backwards here, the vinyl, let's go this way. The vinyl that you see here was down just a little bit farther off to, this side over here where the spinner rack is. It was the spinner rack was actually kind of over here. I have some vinyl and, you can see a Toto album there and a Kiss album right here. What you can't see off the side is a Monkees album. That was down off side of this wall, and the spinner rack was right here. But the big metal shelf that I've had behind me for 10 years or more, that had drums and just various odds and ends. That's where I had the Kiss banners hanging up. If you watched Right Between the Eyes, that was right here. And the big thing was that's where a lot of my drum equipment is. So being that the desk is right here and being that the chair is right here, I started having to try and, lift bass drums and rack pieces over a desk, over a chair to get out through the doorway that's off to this side. I thought, man, wouldn't it be so much easier if I just could walk in the door right from there, go right over to this side of the room that you can kind of barely see. Let's see if I can do this just right. So there's all the stuff, So I thought, wouldn't that be just a little bit better as I'm getting the camera here refocused. Wouldn't that be just a little bit better to have that here so I could just come in and out of this room if I just want a tambourine or I want another drum or etc., and not have to carry it over all of this stuff and trying to kill myself with things on the floor. So that was a big thing, tucking that metal monstrosity out here. And it did have a lot of my Kiss display on it, which, you know, I can't have here. You can see some of the shelves up above. It's kind of pop heavy right here. There is my actual pieces of Eric Singer's drum set, his wraps. There's the mirror on the mirror kit right here. And then the crocodile wrap for this kid is right here. So I got a chance to put that there. So this gave me a chance to kind of reposition some things, and the microphone's in the way, but I have a Dream Theater wall over here. Let me move this out of the way for a second. So one of my favorite drummers, Mike Mangini, right there. And then my VIP pass from seeing Dream Theaters over there. You can kind of see some stuff. My meet and greet for Mike Mangini's right here. And I did that with some of the other stuff and my other VIP for doing the sound check VIP thing for Kiss for the End of the Road. So a lot of my, you know, tour badges of shows that I saw or doing sound checks and various things I have hung on actual signs. There's my Seven Dust that's kind of behind the spinner rack right here. So their VIP pass, you can just barely see the P for VIP, and it's a signed thing. So I was wanting a chance to have more stuff. My signed Kiss End of the Road photo that I got from Doc McGee for my Kiss 2020 Goodbye merch that we never got. That's a whole story. That's over on Right Between the Eyes if you want to check that out. But the big thing was doing this music channel, and for a long time I wanted to get my music, my CD and vinyl collection. And I have cassette tapes down here on the floor that I have 100, you know, cassette rack thing that I want to put on the wall again somewhere. I thought about putting it over here, but it may just kind of stay on the floor, and I may bring it from time to time. And I'll talk about that in just a second. So hopefully this was enough that I got a chance to put some pictures up here of maybe what the room looked like before, and the drop ceiling, or the dropping, or the drooping ceiling, if you want to say it that way. I had a lot of superhero pops up in here. And there's Batman right here. So there's James Bond, Batman, Kevin Smith, Clark Griswold, Cousin Eddie, Ross from Friends, Jerry, George, Elaine, Kramer, Phil Connors, and Phil the Groundhog. There is Eric Singer, or Peter Criss pop, however. And then U2's drummer. I can't think of his name at the moment. My Bruce Kulick bobblehead right here, and then my signed actual Eric Singer snare and sticks and some stuff. So I've got some stuff that I'm gonna probably move around and change from time to time, but doing this Rogue Record Music podcast and doing Right Between the Eyes, where we're talking about music and Kiss and all the various bands that I hope to be covering on this channel, I really wanted the backdrop to be all about music, and that's kind of what I'm about. I've kind of got out of the superhero action figure comic book thing. I'm purging a lot of that stuff so I can buy more music and buy more drums and do more with this room and this space. So hopefully this is something more pleasing to look at rather than just a cluttered metal shelf full of just random stuff. And one more change that I had made here on the bottom of the floor, I don't think you ever really saw it in any videos. We replaced our TV in our living room, a 48-inch, actually it was 54-inch, flat screen TV, because the Sony Bravia that we had was right at the cusp of when streaming was starting to become a thing, and the receiver wasn't strong enough to be next to the router and all that stuff. So we replaced that TV, so I had this big, huge monitor. And I had already had on this desk a 36-inch flat screen TV that I was using as a computer monitor. I thought, I wonder what it would be like if I had a 48-inch flat screen TV as a computer monitor. Well, that's what it is. So if I'm looking up here, I'm actually looking at the top of the TV where the camera was and the camera would have been right about here where you could see all the crap below. So we won't show any more of of that. So from time to time, I'm looking at the screen because I have a much bigger view of, things. And I did that more for editing, for podcasts, and just for some of the audio stuff that I do, to be able to kind of see fields a little bit more. But I feel like when I'm watching a YouTube video, or I'm watching somebody else's podcast, or when I'm guesting on somebody else's podcast, I hope the microphone can reach far enough, because I feel like this is it's a better distance than being at where the desk normally would be seen. I'm still looking up here. I had to take the camera monitor off the top of the TV and actually set it on top of some DVDs and the box that this microphone came in, to get it at about a right height from where a computer laptop would be. But I catch myself still looking at the computer screen going, boy, this is a big, huge TV. I'm not getting used to doing it. So I apologize if I have a wandering eye. I'm looking at myself going, oh, there's some other stuff in the room. I'd like to move over here, maybe move over there. But that's not why you're here. So this, like I said, this is Sunday, the 21st, and coming up for me at 7 o'clock, I've got to get this wrapped up. I've got a free Evanescence concert to watch through Veeps. So by the time you're seeing this, you're not actually going to get a chance to watch it unless you've already been following the band. So with having all the construction, like there was a lot, but there was enough construction that slowed down the podcasting for Right Between the Eyes and this. I wasn't able to do that, as I was having to essentially gut this room for about 2 weeks. And then we were planning to get ready to go on our anniversary trip just about the time this room was done. And I got everything back in here. There was about a week where we were getting ready for our anniversary trip, which we just got back on. So the 15th of September is our anniversary, and we go down to Holmes County and here in Ohio. And a lot of people call it Amish country because it's, a lot of the Amish live in and around there, and you can get, fry pies and do hay rides and go pet animals if you're into that stuff. You've got little things for kids, a lot of antiquing, which is a lot of stuff I like to try and go do, or as my wife calls it, let's go get crap from other people that they didn't want and bring it into our house because they were taking their crap that they didn't want and selling it so we can bring it into our house. Yes, that's exactly what I like to do. And, buying little gnomes or little pumpkins, or getting, like I said, fry pies or kettle corn, and eating way too much food and regretting it in the evening and then going and doing it again the next day. So being in Amish country, you're probably not going to find a lot of records. You're not going to find a lot of Kiss and Motley Crue and Winger and Warren and Slaughter. And, you're going to find maybe some Elvis. You're going to find some choir and gospel music. But every now and then I come across something that I was like, ooh, somebody had something maybe they shouldn't, or it's an antique shop that somebody has. And there's, a lot of albums to flip through, but a lot of the stuff that I like is very hard to find, but I did find a few things. So at the time that, once we realized we've got to replace the roof in here, I was coming up with a segment of going, it'd be kind of fun at the end of the month going, hey, here's some of the new music that I picked up, that I bought, that I want to review for the show or talk about or do different 9 lists, or here's just things that I'm interested in that I like, and just, music hauls. Like, here's some of the records I just bought recently. Here's some of the cassette tapes that I have. Like I mentioned, I have a cassette tape, 100 cassette tape, display down here that I can mount on the wall. And I have about 8 slots left. So I'm being really picky and choosy of what albums I want to put in there. Now, the pack rat in me can go, well, I'll just buy another 100 cassette, holder and another 100 cassette. So I'm trying to limit it to these are the 100 cassettes that I've had in my collection ever since I started buying cassettes. And there was a part of time where I wasn't displaying cassettes, or I had moved on from cassettes to CDs and I don't need cassettes anymore. So I was giving some away. I threw some away, and some I had packed in a box and forgot about it. Found the cassette rack and thought, oh, you know what? I want to try and piece this 100 together of bands that I like, and I'm trying to find them in the wild rather than go on eBay and say, hey, I want that cassette tape, and that's what I'm going to buy. There's one or two that I would like to have on cassette that I might break down and buy on eBay, but I'm really trying to go to, consignment shops, antique shops, and even local record stores around me that have cassette tapes and look and go, well, what do you have? So at the time that the catastrophe that was happening in this room, I was prepping to do here's what I had bought in the month of August. And then I was going to do that in the month of September. Well, obviously I didn't get around to that with everything happening here. So this is going to be kind of what I bought in the month of August and then what I bought on our anniversary trip. So these are in no particular order, but we'll run through cassettes first, as that's what I have the least of here. And again, I'm kind of being picky and choosy, and there are reasons for the purchases that I'm making. It's not like, oh, I just found a Boston cassette tape. And if it's not that I don't like Boston, but that wasn't something I was listening to as a kid. I wanted to have, I had this cassette. And there are a lot of my original cassettes I have, but some I want to try and find that Guns N' Roses, which I have all my Guns N' Roses, but you know what I mean. Something like that. So something that I picked up is Soraya, if I'm saying that right, which I'm probably not. So this is a Christian rock band circa late 90s, or late 80s, early 90s, when this group was around. So the reason I bought this is for the bass player here, and his name is Tracy Ferry. For a short time in about 2004 to 2007, he replaced Timothy Gaines in the Christian rock band Stryper. And I got a chance to meet him during a Stryper signing for their album at the time, Reborn, that was out. It was their first new album in almost well over 15 years, I believe, if I have that time frame right, as I'm still looking off into space at the top of a TV when I should be looking here. It was just by sheer dumb luck that I found this at an antique shop, and I thought, that's really kind of cool. And I had kind of known about his, pre-Stryper band, and he was in a band for a while called Strange Celebrity. And it was he's a really cool guy. And I've heard some of their music, and I thought, I really kind of want to have this for the collection. So this was one that I had picked up. Now, these two I had just bought on our anniversary trip. So I picked up Styx, Edge of the Century. This has Love is a Ritual, and the big song on this was Show Me the Way, which this was 1990 when this came out, and this was right in my, sophomore year of high school, and go sophomore or freshman into sophomore year of high school. Show Me the Way was huge, but what I didn't realize at the time as I was getting into Styx, I was also into Damn Yankees at the time. That Tommy Shaw had left Styx and formed Damn Yankees. So Glenn Butnick, I believe, if I'm saying that correctly, I'm probably wrong, is taking over Tommy Shaw's place in Styx. And then when Styx reunited, Glenn stayed on, and then Dennis DeYoung left. So if you're a Dennis DeYoung fan, I'm sorry, I never really was. Even though this was kind of my early era of Styx, the Styx that I associate with is, Lawrence Gowan, Todd Sugarman, and the current modern era of Styx. But this was kind of my entry point into Styx and who they were. And of course, I bought, back catalog stuff and Grand Illusion. I love all those albums. But this was my era of Styx. So when I saw this at Blackbird Records in Wooster, Ohio, I picked this up. And the other one that I picked up, this just got a 30th anniversary, I believe, vinyl and CD release. It is Van Halen's Balance. This is the last album featuring Sammy Hagar, last full album, even though there was a reunion best of where they recorded 3 new tracks. A really darker, heavier sound for Van Halen. And an album that I really, really like. I love all the Sammy Hagar era Van Halen stuff, and that again is the era of Van Halen I grew up with. I remember Jump, but the first new Van Halen album that I would associate with as being like, oh, that's a band that I like, would be 5150. And both of these, I got this for $4 and this was $2. In a time right now where cassettes and CDs are kind of becoming popular, the price of cassettes and CDs, because of their scarcity sometimes, is starting to creep up in price. Move on to CDs. This one I just picked up. It's been out for a while. This is One Night Only Live at Sheffield 2023, May 19th, 2023, at Lead Mill. And they're actually getting ready to release a new DVD Blu-ray concert footage, and that is Def Leppard. So this has been out for a while. I saw it at Walmart, and I realized it came with a DVD and CD of the show, and it's a really, really good sounding show. This would be the tour for Diamond Star Halos, so it has Fire It Up, and is that the only one from that album? Yeah, but it's got songs like Action, Fire It Up, Let It Go, Too Late for Love, Excitable, Mirror, Mirror, Look in My Eyes, Slang, Kick is also from Diamond Star Halos, Bringing on the Heartbreak, Switch 625, Hysteria, Pour Some Sugar on Me, and one of my favorite Def Leppard songs, Wasted, from On Through the Night. So a really cool package. It's kind of what the concert looks like. And there you go. I had this for a while, and let me show this one first. I'm somebody, I'll have a favorite drummer, like you see Mike Mangini over here, and Eric Singers in different places around here, and Mike Portnoy of Dream Theater. Both Mikes were in Dream Theater at one point at a time. Ray Luzier is another favorite drummer of mine, and with Motley Crue doing their Regency in Vegas right now, a missing member of Motley Crue is Mick Mars. And I have been watching some Ray Luzier drum footage or endorsements. He plays Evan's Heads and was doing an Evan Heads demonstration and talked about him playing on the Mick Mars album, and I had completely forgot about it. So I recently picked this up. It's been out for quite a while, The Other Side of Mars. My gosh, what a fantastic album. All this, pardon my French, but bitch moaning and complaining between Motley Crue and Mick Mars. The stuff that Mick wrote for this album is killer. One of those things that Nikki Sixx and Vince Neil are kind of bagging on, Mick. He didn't really contribute a lot. All the songs and music are written by Mick. He has very few writers on here, and his playing is absolutely fantastic. And being a drummer, the drums sound so good on this album. Ray Luzier, if you aren't familiar with him, he plays with Korn, played with David Lee Roth, which kind of dovetails into the Van Halen stuff I was talking about. But what a killer album. I'm telling you, this is some of the best stuff that Motley Crue wishes they had put out. Mick is in top form on this album. I can't recommend this album enough. And because of that, the 6 degrees of artists I like, going through like Stone Temple Pilots, and Ray Luzier was in a band called Army of Anyone with the DeLeo brothers and the lead singer from Filter, and that got me remembering I used to have an album by the band members of Stone Temple Pilots with a new singer after Scott Weiland had kind of left the band for a while, so they came out with an album called Talk Show. So this is the second time I have bought this album, and there was a purge a while back where there were a lot of CDs and things I wasn't listening to. I was taking them to a record store to get other music, and I was like, I'll sell some of this stuff. I kind of kicked myself for selling this, even in a day and age of, I can stream stuff, but I'm one of those. I want the physical media. You're not going to take it out of my cold dead hands. I want this stuff. When the internet dies and you lose the internet or your iPhone dies, I can go to my DVD player and go to my CD player, my computer, whatever it is, and put on Physical Media, and nothing sounds better than Physical Media. I think anybody will tell you that. So this was kind of fun, like rediscovering this album again. Big song off of this was Hello, Hello, was kind of really their only radio hit. And then before too much longer, Scott Weiland would come back into Stone Temple Pilots, and that would go on for a little bit before he would leave and form Velvet Revolver. And, you know, then that's where Army of Anyone. So I kind of went down this weird rabbit hole of Ray Luzier and Army of Anyone. That was something I realized I just bought. See, as I was sitting here talking and I'm looking over my shoulder and I say that, I recently bought this. So all of these kind of connected, all three of these, you know, Army of Anyone, Talk Show, and Mick Mars are all kind of, in my mind, because I like Ray Luzier so much, one caught me to buy the other caught me to buy the other, and so on and so on. So the Army of Anyone, like I was saying, when Scott Weiland left STP again and would help form Velvet Revolver, the DeLeo brothers got together. I want to say it's Jason Patrick. I think it's Jason Patrick of Filter. Then Ray Luzier formed Army of Anyone. And the big single off this was Goodbye. It Doesn't Seem to Matter was another single released off of this. Another killer album. And because I'm such a, you know, drummer geek, I like to follow all of my favorite drummers around to the various projects they were in. And this was an album that just doesn't get enough love. And I wish I'd had this at the time I met Ray Luzier, because I would have loved to have had him sign this. But I had him sign a drum magazine that he was on instead. So there we go. All right, now we're on to the vinyl. And my eyes are still wanting to wander up to where I had the camera, and it's right here. These are in no particular order. These are the vinyls that I can remember that I bought in the month of August. And I'll start off with this one. This is Ultraphobic. This comes from Deco Entertainment. And this, people could say this is Warrant in their grunge phase. Warrant was kind of leaning towards a heavier industrial sound with Dog Eat Dog in 91, 92. And then, yes, by 95, you know, we're fully into grunge at this point. And I think this was Janie Lane wanting to break away from the cherry pie aspect, and him saying, we are more than cherry pie. We are more than Down Boys. So I think this album, unfortunately, gets a lot of the 80s hair metal stuff gets lost in the sea of grunge, because that stuff's not relevant anymore. That stuff's not popular anymore. But it still very much was to me. I was a fan of all these bands. And without the aid of MTV and radio, you really had to read Metal Edge magazine or RIP or those magazines that were still, or even Circus, still holding on to those 80s hair metal bands with everything that they had, and were promoting these artists for as much as they could. And this is just a really good album, and I think one of the best, some of Janie Lane's best written stuff is on this album. So Deco Entertainment has been doing a lot of just going back and mining through some of 80s artists that never got some of their 90s albums pressed on vinyl. So this is the first time this album's ever been available, as you can see by the hype sticker down here. I was a little late to the game. I wanted to get the fiery orange version of this album, and I missed. It was starting to sell out quick. So I just have the black vinyl version of this album. But songs like Undertow followed. Family Picnic was the only video released from this album. And I think one of the best ballads that Janie Lane has ever written is Stronger. And if you wanted something that's in that dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking rich cherry pie, there's a song on here called High that I think would have easily fit on Cherry Pie, or even been more of a sister song to Sometimes She Cries. It kind of has that feel. But I think this is an underrated Warrant album. This is actually my favorite Warrant album. So I was really happy that this got a proper release from Deco, and it's really cool. There was versions where Eric Turner and Jerry Dixon had signed flats, because those are the only two members original members that are still with us, because Janie Lane has since passed these last few years. They had a new drummer, new guitar player at the time. So Janie, Eric, and Jerry are the only original members on this album. But again, a very good album. Another album by the folks at Deco Entertainment is Slaughter. This comes on blue vinyl, which you can kind of see here, kind of a translucent, milky blue vinyl, which doesn't do a good justice. I'll pull it out when I do an album review. This is a 1997 version. So again, this is after grunge has come in. There was an album before this called Fear No Evil. And the folks at Kiss My Wax Records has a hold of the Slaughter catalog. Their goal was to produce high-quality box sets like this one right here. And for whatever reason, they either lost the availability to produce this at the moment, or Deco got a small hold of a license to be able to get this out. This is good. It's not the full packaging, which I know the guys at Kiss My Wax said that they want to do. So it's just a straight up record. But again, Deco now is the first one to be able to say this is on vinyl for the first time. So I was able to jump on this, and everything that you like about Slaughter very rarely changed their style. They pretty much stayed true to who and what they were. And this album is a little different in a couple songs, but that's straight ahead rock and roll. So if you like Fly to the Angels, Up All Night, and The Wildlife, you'll obviously like this album just the same. It just got lost in 1997 because hair metal and just hard rock was not that popular unless you were wearing a flannel shirt and being sad and depressed. So there you go. Speaking of Seattle and flannel, there weren't a lot of again, I talked about Stone Temple Pilots. There wasn't a lot of the grunge scene that I liked. I think I was liking some of it, or talking myself that I was supposed to like it, because, I was graduated high school and I'm still listening to music, and this is the stuff that's still on the radio. But there were a few things that I really liked out of that scene. And a lot of people say they wouldn't consider this band grunge, even though I think they got put in with it due to the time they came out. Some people say that they are. That is Alice in Chains. So I had been wanting to get Jar of Flies for quite a while. I actually picked this up at Walmart and was very happy to do so. The next album I'm going to show, I have a story. I was hoping to get it the way that I got this album that I'm getting ready to show. Nonetheless, just what a fantastic album. Anybody that listens to hard rock, heavy metal, it doesn't matter the genre, the stuff that came off Jar of Flies is absolutely fantastic. This is kind of a stripped down, acoustic in some parts, and just more of a laid back album that just hits you from front to back. It's more of it's an EP, as the sticker says, 4 times platinum with songs I Stay Away, No Excuses, and the beautiful song Nutshell. So I did get to see Alice in Chains one time open up for Kiss, and it was actually the last live performance of Lane Staley before he sadly took his life a few months after seeing that show at Tiger Stadium with Kiss. So this is one I can't believe I waited this long to have on vinyl, but when it came out with their anniversary edition, I was still slow to get it, but eventually I did get it. The next one, I work for a company that, as you have an anniversary, here's your 5-year anniversary, a 10-year anniversary. If you do something good at work, they give you points for their store that you can purchase things, and there's all different kinds of stuff. So as I was going through, when I hit my 15-year anniversary, I got a batch of points. I thought, I've got enough for something worthwhile, and I realized they had vinyl. Well, I could have bought Alice in Chains, and I was just a few points shy, so I had to wait, or I had to do something safety cautious, and I got points. Well, then I couldn't find that album anymore. So I was talking to a friend of mine. He's into 21 Pilots, and I thought, this is at the point value that I have, and they just released a brand new album. They're a Christian band as well, and I picked up Vessel. So I'm just starting to get into 21 Pilots, and this is the silver edition of the album. This is one of those bands that I knew very little about, but talking to a coworker, he's really passionate about this band, and I thought, man, this might be up my alley. It's a little different than maybe what I normally listen to, but it was something I thought I might not have checked them out had I not been working with this gentleman, and he's a fellow drummer like I am. So, one of the brothers that's in this band is a drummer, so we kind of had that in common to talk about his passion for a drummer that he follows, like I follow some of my drummers. So that was cool to stumble across a band that has a history that I'm just trying to rapidly catch up on. So 21 Pilots, Vessel. And one of the last things that I got in the month of August, and something that I was just talking about not that long ago, is Evanescence. And this is from their third album, their self-titled album, and one of my favorite drummers joined the band at this time, and that would be Will Hunt. He is currently with them right now, so they got their live stream tonight at 7 o'clock, so I'm looking at the clock right here going, I need to get through this so I can start watching the live stream. I absolutely love this album, and I've been an Evanescence fan since day one, since actually before they really blew up big with the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie back in the early 2000s, late 90s, when Evanescence actually got their start. And I kick myself for not driving down to Dayton, Ohio when they were playing a small little club. And literally within 2 months, they were playing stadiums and festivals. So I kick myself for not making that 2-hour drive to go see them when their song Bring Me to Life was just starting to hit radio. And we know how big the rest of that Fallen album just blew up, and of course My Immortal. So this is after a 7-year break that Amy Lee took, kind of reformed the band with some new members, and I meant to pick this up on vinyl all this time, and I had some extra money. I thought, you know what, I am going to pick this up, and I'm so glad I did to have this finally on vinyl. All right, now we move into this month, and I'm going to show this thing off first. I've kind of seen some of these things. My wife picked this up with a shopping trip with her girlfriends, and they'd gone to Hobby Lobby, and actually the price tag is on here. So this is an album frame, 12 by 12 album. It's a $13. Well, it's called 14, a little over $14. And just some little tabs on the back here that you can put your, picture disc or colored vinyl or whatever. So where I've got the Eric Singer snare, I kind of like it there, but I might move it and put the record up there on the wall between the two Kiss plaques. So behind me, you'd be able to see whatever album that I have there, and that it's sitting, right above all of my vinyl right here would be really kind of cool to kind of showcase some record. So I might move this back to over here, or I might actually just put it on the drum rack. It's kind of cool to see the snare drum sitting there as a talking point to go, hey, I got that up there. So I'm trying to find a place around here. There's a spot up over here. I could put it above this wall that it would be sticking out over here, but I kind of want it someplace. It's too small, I think, to get where the Eric Singer picture is back here. So be able to look, maybe I'll have it out here somewhere, but this is really cool. And I'm kind of glad, I'm actually glad she picked this up. I saw these once and I hadn't seen them, so they must have started having them come back out at Hobby Lobby. She just picked this up a couple weeks ago. All right, moving into the purchases from September on the vinyl side. This is John Petrucci of Dream Theater, and it's actually signed here. This actually came out right at the pandemic in 2020. May have technically come out in 2021 as things were lifted. He eventually took this album out on tour, recorded it in Dream Theater's new studio, and at the time, it lists featuring Mike Portnoy. He was not in the band. Mike Mangini was still in the band at the time. So another almost 3 or 4 years would go by before Mike Portnoy would officially join. But this was kind of the seeds of Mike Portnoy rejoining Dream Theater. As much as I like Portnoy and Mangini, Mangini was always my favorite drummer in Dream Theater for the last 15 years that he was in the band. This is really cool. It's all instrumental album by John Petrucci. Some songs have been around for 10 years. He just got around in the new studio when everybody was in lockdown. He was like, well, this is an opportunity to record this music, and had brought in Mike Portnoy, and they recorded a Liquid Tension Experiment album and a new Dream Theater album. And then those were the last steps before Portnoy would officially join the band. But nonetheless, this is about 3 or 4 years old now, probably almost 4 years old now. But I have it on CD, but I got it more importantly because I couldn't believe there were still autographed copies left on his website. And just what a great, fun album this is. One of the last things that I bought on our trip is the next thing I'm going to show here. This is by a band called House of Lords. Talk about in our hair metal days. This is right at about 88, I believe, is when House of Lords was formed. If I could see it through the shrink wrap, and it is still sealed, as you can see up here. I got this for $40. The cool thing for me, and I knew this about the history, if you can see the Moneybag logo, that is Simmons Records. Yes, Gene Simmons of Kiss helped produce and was kind of like I wouldn't say executive producer. I don't think he produced it, more oversaw, but helped them get the record deal through his own personal record label. So this was something I was looking for, the Chevelle album, their new one, and I saw this and thought, man, I've always been a big House of Lords fan, and this is their first album. And the guy at Blackbird Records said, this is something a little more special. He goes, not that Chevelle doesn't have a really good album right now. He goes, but you're not going to find this. And it's sealed. So I'm going to break the seal. I want to play this thing, take it out of its shrink, but I'll take the, hype sticker off and put it on the new sleeve that I'm going to put on it. So this is really cool. The first House of Lords album produced by Gene Simmons of Kiss. Again, talking about being an 80s hair metal fan, I found Rat out of the cellar. Not much to say from here. The original shrink is still on this, but you can see that it's kind of cut here. So I'm going to pull this crusty, brittle shrink off. The record's in great condition. So this is one that I was really kind of happy to have. Of course, this has Round and Round, You're in Love, Lack of Communication, Back for More. Just what a great first album by Rat. And it's, again, I found this in Amish country, in an Amish antique shop, when I was really kind of cool, in a sea of other random just records. I saw some 80s hair metal in here, and I thought that was really cool. And the other one I found in the exact same bin is Sammy Hagar, VOA, Voice of America, with Two Sides of Love. And of course, I Can't Drive 55. This was the last album he released before joining Van Halen. And then one of the shops that I found in Fat Dog Records in Mount Vernon, Ohio, I found Queensryche, Promised Land. Just what a fun album, coming off the heels of Empire, talking about bands that would change their sound. Queensryche is one of them. Their sound and their look and their feel from album to album has always been really kind of cool. IMI, Damage, Bridge, Promised Land, Disconnected, My Global Mind, Someone Else. Just, I think this is a brilliant album, and this isn't one that gets talked about a lot. I was just blown away to see this one. And one of the last records that I found, that when you have what I would consider a grail, like an album that's hard to find, or an album that you want to pick up that you don't see every day, or is going up for astronomical prices, or you're like, I missed my opportunity, or it was in the early 90s where they stopped producing vinyl almost altogether, unless it was for, BMG or Columbia House. I saw this band on tour. My first rock show with being Lynch Mob, Nelson, and Cinderella. I had the cassette tape, I have the CD, but I had always wanted the vinyl, and they put out a 35th anniversary of their album, and surprisingly, they were charging $350 for the last 35 records that they had produced, and they were signed. You got an autographed picture. So that wasn't even one of those conversations I was going to bring up with a wife. Like, there's no way I'm going to pay $350 for an album. So I happened to be at this record shop. I was flipping through the bin, and what do I find? Matthew and Gunnar Nelson. It is still in its original shrink, and it has been, opened. Shrink's still in really good condition. I don't know if I'm going to leave the shrink on it. It does have the BMG label right there. So, tape a penny. You're going to buy X number of records in a month. So this is one of the only ways to really get this album. So this is, of course, not pressed on 180 gram vinyl. This is just the normal, thin as a piece of paper vinyl. But to have this album being one of my first, rock concerts aside from the Monkees, I was so happy to have it. And especially just this year, knowing that Nelson got rid of the last pressings that they had done in 2017. They saved 35 for their 35th anniversary. And that I was able to find one this year. This was the pickup for me. This was a grail that I have. If I ever see the Nelson album, I'll pick it up. And I was hoping to God, because it was in the bin just like this, with no sticker, just like the Queensryche album. And I took it to the counter. I was like, oh, please don't tell me this is $100 or $200, because I'm still not going to be able to get it. $50, which with the price of vinyl right now, I thought this was very good. All of the inserts are in here. The lyric sheet is in here. The vinyl is in excellent, excellent condition. I cannot wait to spin it. An album I played over and over and over again. Still follow Nelson to this day. They're currently out on tour right now. And if you are watching the Peacemaker Season 2, the DC Comics character, they have a song in the TV show, and they will be filming a music video for one of their songs. So that is going to do it for me on this. This is my haul for the month of August, and coming off of our anniversary in September. I'm looking at my clock. I have about 10 minutes to shut this thing off and get ready to watch Evanescence and probably have some supper, because I think my wife is home right now. So the last little bit of our vacation before we hit work tomorrow is done. Put some of this music away and just sit back and relax in Rogue Record Music. And until next time, why don't you come back and we'll see what else is in the rack and what I'm going to review and talk about. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye.